Sometimes I just wish that YouTube had bought Twitch. You know,
It is such a better interface.
it's a better interface for. It's just such a It is a much better UI both for streaming and for viewing. Or just steal. Just look at them and just steal it. How hard is that? All right. Hey, everybody, we're live. Baxter's angry that we're late. I was making tea. So there.
Hey, Kodiak Moonwolf, this is for you. Tell me more, did you get very far?
What the hell?
That's more earworms for you.
Oh, okay. I wasn't reading chat.
No, he was talking about Bowser said it was officially summer. So he said, is it summer in the city, summer nights, last summer, summertime, too many references. So then I posted some lyrics from Summer Nights, and he's like, I've been hoisted on my own petard.
That's right. So you know what we need? We need a Lloyd emote. And I tried to make one and I can't. So I'm putting this on you, Lloyd.
Okay.
You need to make a Lloyd emote, because I made one and I was like, it just doesn't look right. And I didn't feel right posting one that I made of another person that didn't look right. I don't care if mine looks bad, but I can't make somebody else look bad, you know?
I'll get a picture of Chris Hemsworth, and I'll do some tracing, and then we'll upload that one. And that'll be it.
That's good. All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Good morning.
Because I'm technically a Viking, so I could get away with the Thor thing.
You're what?
I'm half Icelandic, so kind of technically a Viking at some point in my history.
Technically, I am a Viking. That's what you sound like when you say that.
I don't think I've ever heard Kermit say that before, so I don't know.
It's fun. It's so weird you bring up Kermit, because my wife and I, we were watching old talk shows the other night, and they had Jim Henson was on Johnny Carson, and he brought the different puppets. And it's weird. As soon as he gets out the puppet and starts talking to Johnny stops looking at Jim Henson as a person anymore and starts looking at the puppet, and he's talking to the puppet. And about halfway through the interview, he said, "Why am I talking to the puppet?" It was hilarious. It's so true though.
It is. A friend of mine I used to do a Lego podcast with. He's a puppeteer, and he knows the bulk of everybody that's done stuff for like Jim Henson and Sesame Street and all this stuff. And so I watch shows that he does with other puppeteers, and it's like another state of reality that they go into when they start doing the puppet thing. It's so fascinating.
I'm just getting my Twitch chat, damn it, the YouTube chat set up so that I can see it. Because Lloyd just has to look at me. I have to look at 17 windows.
Hey, I was streaming and recording before, and you said, my camera looks bad. I'm doing it myself.
I know. That's not your fault. That I'm not complaining about you.
No, I'm just saying we could go back to that, but then I think there'll be other issues.
There will, because I will look at it and I'll be like, this isn't what I paid for.
I spent all this money on a lens. I look like I smeared Vaseline over it. This is not working for me.
Although I will say this, your camera doesn't seem to look any different in Discord than my camera does. Or than your camera does when you record something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what it is you always turn down like your FPS and your quality and stuff like that. So maybe Discord gets confused when you're in Discord with the quality of your camera or something like that. Maybe it was something to do with that.
That's a possibility. Are you ready to make an MP3?
I am, sir.
All right. I'm going to shut off the music if I can find it. There we go. Minimize.
Did you get turnips this morning?
You know what? I haven't played Animal Crossing since like February 28th or something like that.
What?
Or not February 28th. What month are we in?
We're June.
Yeah. So May 28th.
Okay. So you haven't done any of the wedding event or anything like that?
No, I like that whole Harv Island thing is completely uninteresting to me. There's nothing about that I find interesting at all. And I have I've got like 6 million bells or something like that. So I was like, I could buy turnips to make a profit, but then I spend all week like, should I sell today? Doesn't anybody have good prices? And
yeah,
I don't need the money in Animal Crossing, so I was just like, whatever. And then I just kind of stopped playing. I'm not done with it. I'm just busy playing other stuff, and I'm looking forward to logging in and maybe fishing up a shark or something and seeing how the weeds are supposed to look different. Kevin Smith wants to know what my mug says. It says, I can't show. It's gonna be blurry, but it says, "Flying through hyperspace ain't like dust in crops, boy." And that's what it says. And it's one of those stupid color change mugs that you can't put in the dishwasher, which I think are cool. But when you put them in the dishwasher, this outside stuff like comes off and it gets ruined.
I love Star Trek mugs, so that's a really good one that you have there, Bill. Really good Star Trek
Kodiak
mug.
Moonwolf. I'm gonna hang up on Lloyd. Can you co-host for me today, because Lloyd is a jerk? Actually, I have my wife has a shirt that says, it's got a picture of the TARDIS and it has a quote from Star Trek, and then there's a little arrow pointing to the TARDIS that says Millennium Falcon.
Oh yeah, I've seen a GIF like that. It's so good. It's funny. I made a Star Trek, Star Wars joke before, and a guy that I was talking to got really offended. He's like, "How do you not know what Star Wars is?" He's like, "It's like it's so obvious Star Wars. Like, how do you not know that?" And then I like rolled up my sleeve and went like this, and he's like, "Oh, right, you have a Star Wars tattoo. You were joking." I'm like, "Yeah, I was joking. Thank you."
I've always wanted to have a tattoo, but I've never been. It's not like I'm afraid to get a tattoo, but I haven't found one that I've been like, gotta get that. That's the one.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, this was my wife's idea. She wanted "I love you, I know" tattooed on us for a couple tattoo. And I was like, well, we're just gonna do the words. And she's like, well, no, let's get like logos. We can do like the Rebel Alliance logo. And I'm like, really? You want to have a Star Wars logo tattooed on your body forever? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, on your arm? Yeah. All right, so she got the Jedi logo, I got the Rebel Alliance logo, and then we got the words tattooed on our bodies.
You don't seem like you're convinced that was a good idea, just the way that your face.
I love it. I just never thought she would be someone that would ever want a Star Wars tattoo. Like that. That never ever entered my mind. Get the Stadia logo tattooed across your chest.
That's right, like
a full chest piece.
God, what's the actor? Donnie Trejo. He's got the big woman tattooed on his chest.
Danny Trejo, yeah.
There's a movie coming out about him. I want to see that.
He's an interesting dude.
He is. All right. We've been waffling a little bit. Are you guys ready to make an MP3?
Waffles.
Oh, that's true. All right. This week in waffles, Lloyd, what do you put on? Do you put syrup in every little? No, I'm just kidding. Let's move on.
I do. By the way, I know it was a joke, but I do. I'm very I have to have equal syrup coverage on my waffle, or my brain just goes into like reboot mode or something. It's just I can't compute when there's not syrup in every little square on my waffle.
All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to Stadiacast. I'm Bill. That's Lloyd. Lloyd, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Bill. I have a cat now, and you're not the only podcaster in this podcast duo that has cats, although you will not see her running around behind me because I have to close my door because I have too many wires in here.
That makes me sad. Everybody wants to see Lloyd's cat.
Lloyd,
are you gonna make a Twitter feed for your cat so that people can follow? What's the cat's name? You told me and I forgot.
Juno.
Yeah, is Juno gonna have a Twitter feed?
I should probably do something like that. I've been posting a lot of pictures of her on my Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that because I've turned into that person apparently. So maybe I'll separate out into its own feed.
Yeah, my daughter is like that's all we like. We don't even talk with words anymore. I'll send her a picture of our cats and she sends me a picture of her cats and we're like, hey.
It's hilarious. Yeah,
we're cat people.
We've had cats before, but we got rid of them. We had to get rid of our one of our cats when we had kids because she was evil, and she started stalking my son when he started crawling, which is never a good thing. So we ended up taking them to a no-kill shelter, and they got adopted. So that was really good. But yeah, it was. We haven't had cats for a while, so it's been quite the adjustment coming back and getting cats in the house, and then escaping into my room to play video games, and then I hear like a little paw on the door as she's trying to open it because she wants to be by me, and it's like, oh, that's breaking my heart. But you're gonna have to stay out. I'm sorry. There's too many cables in here.
Well, welcome to episode 61 of Stadia Cats. If you want to directly support Stadia Cats. And you're here with us live, you can use the super chat feature to support us and make sure that we see your message. We will, of course, respond to each and every super chat in the second half of the show, which is called Crowd Play. Before we get started on the show, we do record this show live Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern over at youtube.com/StadiaCast. I'm not going to say the URL wrong, even though that's fun. And, of course, if you're here and watching this or listening to this after the fact and you're looking for ways to support the show, join the channel and get some videos early. Like right now, there is a video about getting to the right part of the story in Elder Scrolls Online. That will come out for everybody before Elder Scrolls that actually comes out on the 16th. But right now, it's for members only. So you get those videos early by becoming a member, and that also directly supports us. And if you don't know how to become a member on the YouTube channel, just click on the join button down below the video. Lloyd, are you ready to talk about video games? He muted himself because he had to cough. I'm sorry, Lloyd.
That's fine. It was funny. You asked me, and I'm like, okay, now is when I get the tickle in the back of my throat. All right, I guess that's what's happening. I'm hitting mute.
What have you been playing?
Yeah. I've been playing a little bit of stuff. I've been playing some Super Hot. Really enjoying that one. I did a first look at that one, and I'm trying to get a little bit further with that game as well. It is so much fun. I'm happy that I'm finally playing it, even though I played the VR version on PlayStation VR, which was so fantastic. But I wanted to play the original. And I think I own it on multiple platforms. But like we said before, it is so much more convenient to go to Stadia, go to stadia.google.com, look at your game list and say, I want to play Super Hot now. And you click a button and you're playing it in 30 seconds instead of downloading, installing, waiting, getting distracted. It's games that I own that I've never played. I'm playing on Stadia, which is a fantastic thing. So that's pretty much all that I've been playing on Stadia. But what I have been doing a fair bit of is watching ESO streams on Twitch because I'm super excited about getting into Elder Scrolls Online. And I want to see what the game is because when I played it, it was pretty bare bones, and it had just switched to the point where they were having they wanted to get them like the monthly fee in it. So there's like a bunch of stuff that was happening. And I'm watching some high level raiders doing high level dungeons, and I don't understand all that stuff. And then I'm watching people that are just running through town, talking to a cat that is also a banker. And I'm like, that's new. I'm going to have to look into that stuff. So there's so much stuff happening in Elder Scrolls, and I've been having some fun just going to Twitch and watching random streams of Elder Scrolls Online as I get prepped for that game.
Yeah, and rest assured, everybody, I'm going to be making a bunch of Elder Scrolls content for the channel because I am a huge fan of the game, and there's a lot to cover in that. I already did one video that was like a beginner's guide, which is like it's about 40 minutes long, teaching people the ins and outs of the game. And then, of course, I've got the one about getting the story stuff right. But there's going to be more ESO content coming because I love that game, and I haven't decided yet. And Lloyd, maybe this is something you and I can talk about some other time, but I haven't decided yet where I want to stream it. Like, obviously, here on Stadiacast, I have a much larger audience, but if you stream it on Twitch, then you can become part of the ESO stream team, and then you get drops so that when people watch you, they get stuff in game too, which is really cool. I really wish that they would do something like that on YouTube. I wish that YouTube would partner with gaming companies like that in order to make things like that happen, because I think that's incredibly cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wish that was a thing that you could do on YouTube. I was hoping that it would come with like state share and other things like that, where you'd be able to have more full featured functionality on a YouTube stream. And I thought maybe that's what they're waiting for. Maybe that's why we're not getting state share right away, because they're waiting for all this other stuff. Turns out, I guess that's not the case in this instance, but I hope at some point we do get that, because it would be nice to have, like, because I've watched a lot of I can't remember which game it was. Borderlands did a lot of drops. There was a lot of other games that I've watched that have drops, and I tend to watch streams a little bit more than I normally would, just to get some cool items or whatever. If you could do that on ESO on YouTube, that would be great. I'm also planning to do a lot of ESO coverage and content and stuff, mainly because even though I've played it in the past, I didn't play a lot of it, so I'm mostly new to the platform. So I'll be doing some kind of newbie streams. Bill's going to come in with his level 50 Death Knight and slaughter everybody, and I'll be over there watering flowers and running after butterflies. You know, the newbie things that you do when you start an MMO. That'll be me. So it'll be interesting to get in and start playing, and also joining the Nerd Nest so we could all play together.
That's right. The Nerd Nest is our the ESO guild. Right now there's like 5 or 6 people in, because most people are waiting until it comes to Stadia. And honestly, that's what I would recommend people do. Like, don't go out and buy it now. Wait, even though they have said that there's cross ownership, which I'll explain why I'm irritated by that. But enough about ESO for now. There's more ESO later in the show, because there's an interview, not our interview, but there's a interview for Elder Scrolls Online. But I've been playing, I played a little bit of all of the June Pro games. I have to echo what Lloyd said about Superhot. That game is really, really cool. I know that there are people in chat who are saying, well, it's really, really short. That is actually a plus for me. Like, I hear that it's really short, and I'm like, you know what? I'm more likely to play it again, because now I know I may actually get to the end. A lot of times when games are super, super long, it scares me away. That doesn't apply to MMOs, because MMOs don't actually have an end. So for some reason, my brain doesn't have a problem with that. But when a game has an end, and I know that that end is, 1,000 miles down the road, I don't want to take that first step. But when I can see that there's a goal that I can easily reach in a short amount of time, then I'd have no problem with it. So I'm very excited to play more Superhot. I've been playing it up here in my studio. I've been playing it downstairs in the living room, and being able to play it on any screen is awesome. And man, that game is, I mean, like, I had seen stuff about it, but I didn't quite understand how cool it was going to be. And I really, really like how they've kind of wrapped it around this weird thing where somebody has sent you an exe file to run. Yeah. So that you can, and then like story stuff happens around that. I think it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to playing more of it.
It is fantastic. It's a small game, or short game, like you said. You can beat it in about 2 hours if you know what you're doing. I keep calling it a first-person shooter, but it's not. It's a puzzle game. It is 100% a puzzle game that has first-person shooting elements in it. It's so good. I remember playing in VR. Like you're even more immersed in the thing. Like you have your computer, your DOS-based computer. It's like a bulletin board. You're chatting back and forth, and then you have this like VR helmet that you put on in the game, and it's like you're in a helmet, but are you in a helmet? And it's just they take kind of the are you playing a game or not part of the game that is kind of confusing right at the start, and they make it tenfold by having it in VR. And are you in VR? Are you in VR while in VR? Like, such a good game, and it's been fun to play through the original because I can understand why this was such a just a I don't know, a fan favorite. People have been talking about this game forever, and I just didn't have a way to play it. And then played the VR version, then said, you know what, I don't really need to play the original one. But then the further I got away from playing the VR version, I wanted to get in and play the original. So it's definitely a gem here on Stadia. And there is nothing wrong, as Bill said, with a game that you can beat in a couple hours or 5 hours if you want to do all of the additional content and unlockables and things like that. That is a good thing, because then that means you can move on to other games. You don't, not every game has to be a 200-hour epic, because, well, not everybody has that kind of time.
All right. So speaking of other games, I like I said, I played everything. I also played more Sundered. I did my first look of Sundered, and then I went to play some more, and I'm completely stuck. I can't figure out where I'm supposed to go. I don't feel like the game is pointing me where I need to go, and I shouldn't have to go and look it up. And it's kind of driving me crazy that I can't progress in this game. Like, no matter where I go, I end up finding a door that I can't open, and I can't figure out what I'm supposed to do. So I just keep going around, and after about 10 minutes, like, I'll load it up, I'll play for about 10 minutes, I can't figure out where I'm supposed to go, and I give up and go play something else. So Sundered, I love the gameplay. I'm so frustrated by not being able to figure out where I'm supposed to go next. And that is so, like, it's very, very irritating to me.
Right.
And speaking of games that I got stuck in, Little Nightmares. I played a little bit of Little Nightmares, and I got to, and again, I don't think that this is necessarily the fault of the game. It's just, I'm bad at this kind of game. Little Nightmares to me feels like a point and click adventure without the point and click. Does that make sense, Lloyd?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it feels like that. And I'm bad at point and click adventure games because my brain just doesn't say, oh, let me try this and let me try that. And so I was playing it, and I was like, I love the atmosphere, super creepy. I love the art style. I love everything about this game, except I got to a point and I can't just figure out where to go or what to do in this one room. And it just made me say, well, all right, I'll play it some other time. Maybe that would be a better game to stream, where I could say, all right, guys, I can't figure it out. And then people would say, well, try this, Bill. And then I'm like, you idiot, why didn't you think of that? And that's almost always the case with these kind of games, where I enjoy them, but my brain doesn't work the right way to figure things out in some of these games.
100%. That's the one game I haven't tried yet, from the pro titles, because the community wants me to play it, wants me to stream it. They want to see me get scared, although it doesn't seem like a super scary game. So I'm still trying to figure out when that stream will happen. It was supposed to happen already, but then I got a cat, and I haven't played any video games because my cat is my video game. I play with an actual real life video game that bites my fingers and chases after stuffed mice. So once that settles down a little bit, we'll jump in and do some streaming of Little Nightmares, so people can see me get scared and play a spoopy game that I'm very uncomfortable playing when people are watching.
I played Panzer Dragoon. When I recorded I did a best visual quality video, and when I recorded that, I did not realize that there was lock-on targeting. That completely changes the game. I was very irritated with it, as I was trying to aim and I'm hitting the trigger over and over and over again. Once I realized that there was lock-on targeting, it became so much better. But I still have a complaint about that game. The cursor, or the reticle, the like, they have these three spinning squares that are the reticle, and I'm having trouble focusing on the smallest square, which is where the bullets or the lasers or whatever you want to call it actually go when you're shooting.
Yep.
And so what I end up, like, my eye locks on to the biggest square. And the reason that they do this is to give like the reticle depth, I believe. But my eye locks onto that biggest square,
Right.
and it doesn't move as fast as the little square does. So my brain keeps thinking that there's all of this latency until I realize, oh, you idiot, you're looking at the wrong square again. Look at the little square. And then once I do that, I'm fine. But that only lasts for maybe 10 minutes, and then my brain will go back to the big square for some reason. And I can't get myself to stop looking at the big square. And I just wish that they had a traditional reticle. Like, this is where your bullets will go, instead of this weird 3-level reticle. Have you run into that problem at all, Lloyd?
Yeah, I think what part of the problem is when you are playing the game, your reticles go over top of your little flying dragon thing. If they were really in the environment, they would be hidden by your dragon, because they would be out in front of your dragon. So I keep getting that distracts me when I'm playing the game. So I find that really, really annoying. But yeah, I've played a fair bit of it. It's good for what it is. It's definitely an old game. Like, they didn't do anything to modernize it other than change the way that the game looks a little bit. So yeah, I can see where some people bounce really fast on that game. They're just like, yeah, I'm not playing this anymore. And I get it. I fully get that. I want to make my way through and beat it. But I don't know if that's going to be happening sooner or later. It might be something that I just come back to every once in a while to play through a mission and then go about my business doing other things.
I really like the idea, like, you're sitting on top of this dragon and you've got the gun, right? And you can hit the bumper buttons in order to face different directions. So you have enemies coming from all directions, and you can spin around and shoot at stuff. I think that that's super cool. If they would just change the reticle, I would probably have an absolute blast with this game. And I don't know why I didn't remember any of this, because I played this game a bunch back in the day on either Saturn or Dreamcast. I can never remember which one it was on, because I had both. But because I was a big fan of Sega, and I kept buying Sega stuff, even though they kept selling Sega stuff that, you know, they would make a platform and then abandon it. Thanks, Sega. But I kept falling for it anyway. Then there's Power Rangers. Power Rangers and Super Hot. I think those are the two best ones that we've got on June 1st. Power Rangers is exactly what I was hoping for. It doesn't have these crazy inputs in order to execute your combos or whatever. I think that game is really, really fun. It's also crossplay, although somebody told me you have to turn on crossplay. And I don't remember turning on crossplay. And every time I've looked for a match, I've gotten one instantaneously. Like, instantly. Every single time I've been like, I'm going to play online. Boom, I've got somebody to play with. And I think that that's really fantastic, especially if I don't have crossplay turned on. Now, maybe I do have crossplay turned on. Maybe it was turned on automatically. I don't know.
Sure.
But this was happening before I even made, they've got this weird account that you need to make in order to, like, friend somebody on another platform, and I hadn't even done that yet, and I was getting instantaneous matches. But I'm really, really impressed with Power Rangers Battle for the, what is it?
I don't even know.
Battle for the Grid. It's Battle for the Grid.
That's what it is.
I'm very impressed with that. Have you played that at all?
Actually, I totally forgot that was added. I haven't even started that one. I'm gonna have to jump in and play that one for sure, just to try it out, because it is something that I'm looking forward to playing, because I've seen it on Switch and other platforms, seen some videos about it. So it definitely looks like something I want to eventually get into and play.
It feels like a family-friendly version of Mortal Kombat to me. Of course, nice. Without the insane, forward, back down punch or whatever. Like, it doesn't have any of that stuff. It very heavily relies on combos. I like that you can call in so you select 3 people on your team, and of course you're fighting somebody else that's 3 people on their team. And in the middle of your combo, you can hit one of the bumpers, and that will bring in one or more members of your team, and they can do an attack real quick and then leap away. Or if you double tap that, you will swap places with them. So as somebody's getting hit a bunch, you can swap out to somebody else, and maybe there's somebody who's really good at range, and your opponent has somebody that's really good at countering range. So you're like, all right, well, I'm going to switch to this other character while they have this person out. There's a lot of rock, paper, scissors stuff going on, but I've really been having fun with it. There's a bunch of skins in the game that I guess people can buy. I'm not interested in any of that, but as somebody who never watched Power Rangers, I mean, I watched it in my peripheral as my son enjoyed it. And when they made the new movie a few years back where they were kind of rebooting it, like we took my son to it, and I went in with no expectations and came out really, really impressed. And it's too bad that they're not going to continue with that group and they're going to start it over again, because I thought that what they did was cool. I thought they did a great job with that. But I had no interest in a Power Rangers game, and picking it up and playing it, it's very impressive. I really, really like it. Although it is in just 1080p. It's not like 4K or anything. So on my 4K screen, it looks a little fuzzy. And that's not a big deal, but it's, something that I know that people are curious about. All right. Anything else that you want to talk about before we get to the news?
I don't think so. Just the fact that I bought a Chromebook for the kids because they were having issues. They were using like iPads and phones to do their schoolwork, and I'm like, you know what? I gotta get them an actual laptop to work on. So I picked up a Chromebook. The first thing I tried was to play Stadia on it, and it worked unbelievably well. So you can buy a cheap $300 Chromebook. This one's a little bit more expensive than that. Actually, probably $300 US, but I paid Canadian prices for it. And you can play games in full fidelity on a Chromebook that costs almost nothing. Stadia is really well done. I think the biggest thing that Stadia can do in the near future is just install Stadia by default on a Chromebook. So one of the icons that just appears is Stadia, and it gets you a two-month free trial. You can jump in and play games with keyboard and mouse, and they're going to sell all these $300 laptops for back to school. And then people are going to say, what? I can play Elder Scrolls Online. I can play Borderlands 3. I can play Cyberpunk. This is amazing. And that would be a super, super good way of advertising the service if they just did that.
Yeah, that's actually pretty brilliant. God, why haven't they done that yet? That is absolutely brilliant. Listen,
it's a
Google,
captive audience.
Listen, I mean, we know that they're listening. So, but hey, this is a great idea. Why hasn't it been done yet? They probably already have plans to do this, and they're probably. Like, why? Why do these guys think that we don't have plans to do this just because we haven't done it yet? Anyway.
But when they do it, we can claim that we're the geniuses that convinced Google to do it, because people think we work for Google anyway. So
that's right. We're Google shills
exactly.
all the time. People in chat want to know, which Chromebook did you get?
Oh, that's interesting. The Guinness says the Stadia icon default on Chromebooks now. That's interesting. That is not on mine. I bought a Lenovo. It's like the touchscreen 14-inch one. I can't remember what the model number is. So maybe I'll have to check that out to see if maybe with like a software update, maybe they push that icon out. But yeah, it wasn't on there at default.
Yeah, well, you should always be on the latest update for Chromebooks. Like they auto update every time you turn them on or something or turn them off or something.
Yeah.
After the show, I'm gonna go and grab my Chromebook. No, my wife I gave it to her because her computer stopped working. So I'm gonna have to grab her Chromebook and check and see if there's the Stadia icon on there, because I'm curious now as well.
Yeah, I bought a Lenovo S345 14-inch touchscreen Chromebook, and it was $400 Canadian. So it's probably the $299 US Chromebook. It's a sweet little device. The kids are loving it. So
is that 1080p or 720?
1080p.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
Very
I made
good.
sure to buy a 1080p one because 720. But yeah, 1080p works fantastic. Watching YouTube, playing Stadia in 1080p, it was pretty fantastic.
Especially when you have a screen that size, going higher than 1080p just doesn't make any sense. All it does is eat up your battery for no good reason because you've only got a 14-inch screen. Having a super high resolution at that size it's kind of wasteful. All right, let's talk about the news. The first one is the one that I'm probably the most excited for. Not necessarily for this particular game, but because we're finally going to get what did they call it? A Stadia enhanced feature. And that is this summer when Crata comes out, it will be coming with Stadia State Share. Now they're calling this beta, so we don't know if that means that they're beta testing it or if the feature itself is in beta. Who cares? I don't really care. I just excited that it's going to be used, and they talk about some of the ways that it can be used. So I'm going to share a couple of quotes, and then Lloyd and I'll discuss what we think about this particular thing. So first off, share in. I'm sorry. So the interview or the writer here, which is Chris Swan, they said share in particular caught our attention. The ability to click a button and leap into any save point that the developers had set up was the missing link that we had been hoping for. And then they went through 4 examples of how it might work. So, example number 1, a player who has made a game. By the way, before we go any further, Crata is that game where you can make games in the game, which is super exciting. And we have an interview with the developer on our channel, so make sure that you check that out. Okay. A player who has made a game can share a link on social media. This link launches Stadia and takes the whoever clicks it directly into a session of that game on Crata. So if Lloyd makes a game, like he makes this crazy racing game or something, he can share that link out, and then anybody who clicks on that link can play his game without having to do anything else, which is huge. The second scenario that they talked about, someone making a game over a number of sessions just wants to launch directly into create mode each time they launch Crata. So they create a save state link and save that as a Chrome bookmark, so then they can sit down at Chrome, hit the button, and it takes them straight into what they're working on, which is very interesting. A streamer is having fun creating a game and wants to get more people involved. They generate and share a temporary link that takes people directly into their edit session. When the stream finishes, the link expires. And then finally, a YouTuber wants their viewers to come and join the play session, so they generate and share the link in chat. People click the link, will be taken to the exact session that the streamer is in. And then they say no, if the server is full, they will be taken to a new instance of the same game. So everybody gets to play, but some people would end up playing with the streamers. All right. So Lloyd, what do you think about this particular? What's your reaction after reading this?
It shows that I guess state share is pretty it's a pretty large feature with a lot of different possibilities. It also means that there's going to be some confusion there. So if you're a YouTuber or a Twitch player and you want someone to come into your game and you post the link, the first 3 people get in, but then everybody else is going to be like, hey, I'm not playing with you, what the hell? There's going to be a lot of chatter on YouTube, so there's going to take some time for people to get used to how this works. I love the fact that you can just bookmark something and go directly to that game. Like, that totally makes sense because you're online, you're on the web, you're in the cloud. Why can't you just bookmark that specific game that you're creating? So I'm really excited to see how this works. I mean, we've been talking about it since essentially they announced the feature, and wondering how this is going to work and how it's going to be really great for people to come in and try different things that we're doing. Like we got a low score on this particular race. Okay, here's a link. Try to do better. Things like that would have been really cool. But when you're playing a game like this where it's multiplayer creation, having links that you can send out that will bring people to your game so they can help out, That's just going to be huge. So I'm really looking forward to Creta. I've been watching a lot of their videos and watching some of the content that they're putting out there, and just the fact that there's going to be so many people making games. I think it's going to be a really interesting community to be a part of. All the big game creators. You're going to have people that are just going to be using controllers, that are doing the basic stuff, decorating, linking things together. Then you're going to get the code monkeys that are going to come in and code up new functions and new behaviors, and add that to your game and stuff. I think it's going to be really fun. I've played a lot of Little Big Planet and other creation games, but you're basically doing that by yourself unless you have a local co-op partner. Being able to do this with people online is going to be pretty amazing.
I 100% agree. This is going to be very, very cool. They also said that when you share a link on social media, generally what happens is there's a process called unfurling, where it takes some of what that will point to and shows it to you, so you know ahead of time what it is that you're clicking on. And right. That's also going to be supported in Creta. Each creator will have what's known as a creator portal, and each game has its own automatically generated web page. So when if I make a game, I would have the Run Jump Stomp creator portal. You'd probably go to creta.com/runjumpstomp or something like that. I don't know. And then each game that I made, like if I made this whack-a-mole game for people to play, that would have a website that is automatically generated. I don't have to do any of that. I just make a game, and then suddenly there's a website, and I can point people to that. And when it comes up in Twitter, it's unfurled so that people can say, "Oh, look at that! There's a cool game right here that I can play. I can click on it." That's going to be huge for Creta, because you all know that when people can make a game or make something and share it out easily, mm-hmm. that brings eyeballs back to Creta. And so a lot of people are going to see, look at this cool thing that Lloyd made. That's awesome. I'm going to try that. Oh, now let me try and make that or make something like it. And then I can share it out. And then other people who probably have never heard of Stadia are going to start clicking on stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is really interesting. How much is this? Oh, if I pay $10 a month, I get access to this until I'm not paying anymore, or I can just straight up buy the game." Well, do we know if you can straight up buy the game? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's going to expand the player base for Creta by having the players share stuff out. And it's going to expand the player base of Stadia, because people are going to want to try to make games on their own. This is really cool. And I was watching a stream, and like, it's real code. So like, people could learn how to actually do programming through a game, which is like, that's kind of the holy grail of learning how to code, is making things really, really easy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like, a lot of people are using Apple Swift playgrounds to learn how to code, because you can type something in and then have like a real world scene where this 3D ball is moving around, and you can code immediately, and that's how they're learning how to code, which is great. That's an amazing way to learn the Swift programming language. Well, Creta is going to be the exact same way. You can go in, you can type some things in. You want to hit a button and spawn a ball. Well, okay, I hit a button and I'm going to do this spawn thing, create the function to spawn something into the game. Boom, run it. You hit the button, boom, you have your little gun or whatever pops up in the world. It's going to be a great way for people to learn how to code. You'll be able to go to a website, look at code snippets, break them apart, type them in yourself. It's going to be fantastic. I could see high school programming courses using Creta as a way to teach programming to the kids. It's not a high level programming language, but Lua is still going to be useful. You can take what you learn from programming in that, and you could take the aspects, the core programming smarts that you get from doing that and apply that with different languages. Languages are all fairly similar in format. So learning in one, well, you'll be able to take that and then move forward and learn in another. So this could be huge. I'm really excited to see what happens. And if there's already a lot of like Google stuff in school, like my kids all use Google platform or Google classrooms, they use Gmail, they use all this other stuff. If they could add a free version of Crata to the Google Classroom, a product for high school students to learn to code, that would be huge. Like Google partnering with this company is a really, really smart thing. Hopefully that partnership is like really close and things like that happen in the future. If not, it's still going to be a pretty cool thing to run around and play in.
Yes, definitely. And if that wasn't compelling enough, they also have another plan to get people motivated to make games in Crata, and we're going to talk about that right after this.
Now you can play Donkey Kong on your ColecoVision, Atari VCS, or Intellivision video game system. Donkey Kong has multiple screens, just like the arcade game.
All right, we are back, and we just spent a whole bunch of time talking about Crata. We have more to say about Crata because they also announced the prize fund plan, which is really cool. The prize fund plan basically has two ways that people who are making games can make money. You know, we specifically asked how, you know, is there a way for them to, is there a way for people to monetize their content? And was it Hannah that we talked to? I'm forgetting because we did a lot of interviews that week.
Yeah, Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah, or if you're Canadian, Hannah, because that's how Lloyd says it. She was very coy about it and didn't really give an answer, and this is probably why, because they were about to make this announcement. So they have top games and top new games. Here's what they had to say. So a prize fund feels like the right starting point for Crata to reward creators. How will it work in practice? From our launch, we will provide a number of prizes each month. Top games. This will be calculated using an equal combination of total unique plays and total time spent in games, calculated at the end of the calendar month. Top new games. Each game with its 30th day from publish falling in the current calendar month is ranked on unique plays and session length as above. So what do you get for having a top game or a top new game? Well, if you are the number one ranked top game in Crata, you will earn $5,000. Number two gets $3,000. Number three gets $2,000, and the rest, 4 through 8 get $1,000 each. If you are the top new game, so like you made a brand new game and it spiked this month, you get the top 5 top new games each get $2,000 a piece. Now, I'm not. There's of course a bunch of fine print. I'm not going to go into the fine print because you can go ahead and read that on your own. They also said that we will on occasion offer additional prize fund awards for other works that capture our interests, things like accessibility, originality, seasonal content, art, and design. Okay. I'm very excited for this, not necessarily for me because I don't think I have the skill to make something that would get top games or top new games, but sure. I'm excited for this because money motivates people. I have talked about this a million times, especially when we talk about game companies that don't allow you to stream their game. You know, they always hit you with takedown notices or stuff like that. And the reason why I find this exciting, or let's get back to that analogy. Sorry. So if people can make money by streaming a game, then they will stream a game. And if people can make money by streaming a game and they are streaming that game, then people will see people playing that game. And if people see people playing that game and that game is good, then people will buy that game and it will make money for the publisher. This is kind of going to do the same exact thing. If people can make money making a game in Crata, then they're going to do that. And when people see that, they're going to say, well, I can try that too. And that is going to hugely expand the base of people who are playing and creating in Creta. Lloyd, what's your reaction on that?
I think this is something that they 100% don't even have to do. The fact that they're putting a prize fund together is just kind of an unbelievable thing to do. It's monthly, at least for the first little bit. They want to get people in creating awesome stuff, and they want to reward the people. Some people are saying in the chat room that it should be it should be a set percentage of sales, and it's like, well, they don't have to give you anything. This is just a way for them to reward people for making awesome stuff with their tools. I think this is going to be great. And just like you said, Bill, I could see huge YouTube and Twitch streams of people working on games, trying to make the best game possible, having people come in, test it, bug fix, blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, you could be part of a community for a game that won the top rank $5,000, which means that streamer can then buy new equipment and hopefully make their stream better, and then make more games, and et cetera, et cetera. This is just funding the community with potentially a bunch of stuff. I'm super stoked. This is, as I said, nothing that I had anticipated was happening, and they even laid it out in their in the blog post that we're getting this information from, where they wanted. We asked about microtransactions, and they looked at different things. They were looking at microtransactions, advertising, having patronage, so you can subscribe to a specific creator, charitable donations, blah blah blah, and they chose the prize fund as the best way to do it. So. This is amazing. I'm super excited to see what comes out of this. This is going to get more people making games, where before maybe they would dip in, play a couple things, and then move on to other things. This is going to have people invested in doing stuff in this platform, and I'm excited to see that.
Jay Chussell in chat says, yeah, but you only make money if you're one of the very few out of thousands of games. If a game ends up getting 1 million followers, then yes, 5,000 is peanuts. A good start, but it will have to do better. But what you don't understand is that this gets people to make games, and because everybody, okay, I don't want to say everybody. A lot of people think, you know what? I can do that. I can make that thing. And now I have a motivation to try and make that thing. This is going to make a lot of people create stuff on Creta, even if most people won't get money for it. Most people, and I 100% agree with what Jay Chussell is saying, most people will not be making money from making these games, but some will. And that aspirational thing is going to pull people towards it. And I think that that's a really, really good thing. Anything else about Creta before we move on?
No, just on that point, like this, you're potentially making money to play a video game. You're not making a product that you're selling in a store. You're making a game within a game. It's like what people do in Minecraft, what people do in Fortnite creative mode. But this is just a way for them to reward you for doing that. So yeah, it is. $5,000 is peanuts if you are making a game and selling it. If you're spending 5 years making a game and putting it up on Steam or another platform, of course you can make more money, but you're using the tools of a game creation platform to create a game. And if a lot of people enjoy what you're doing, you potentially have the possibility of winning some money as kind of a reward for doing it. I think that's pretty good. I don't see anything bad here to complain about. This is all just good news as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I don't think that Jay Chussell was actually complaining. And, you know, one more analogy that I'll throw at you is podcasting and YouTubing. Is YouTubing a thing? I don't think that we call it that. Making videos for YouTube? Oh, God, don't say YouTubing. That sounds awful. Anyway.
You're too old now, Bill.
Yeah, I am too old. So making podcasts and making YouTube, there's thousands and thousands of people out there making content, and nobody listens to it, and nobody makes money from doing that. But that doesn't stop people from trying. I saw an interesting thing. It says that if your podcast gets 150 downloads in the first 30 days from when you post an episode, like an episode of your podcast gets 150 downloads in a month, then you are in the top 50% of podcasters. If your podcast gets, I think they said 500 downloads then in that same period of time, then you are in the top 20%. And if you get 1,000, then you're in the top 10% of podcasters. And that doesn't stop people from making podcasts just because it's hard to make money, because a lot of people think, guess what? I can make something really cool. And so I'm going to make something really cool, and maybe I'll make money at it, but maybe I won't, but maybe I will. And that maybe is a big maybe. All right, moving on. We've come full circle. It's time to talk about Elder Scrolls Online again. There was a WCCF Tech interview with ZeniMax. And by the way, everybody, it's ZeniMax, not Bethesda. Bethesda is like they
license.
Yeah, they licensed it to ZeniMax. ZeniMax is doing the actual work here. And there's a couple of questions in this interview which I found to be interesting. They said, can you share some of the technical details on ESO Stadia, such as if it supports native 4K resolution and or HDR displays? So here's what they said. In general, we work really closely with Google Stadia just to balance performance with visuals. Right now, our goal is roughly in between medium and high-end settings for PC. And they said, okay, let's talk about frame rate. And they said, we're not looking to share that just yet, but as we get closer to launch, definitely stay tuned for exact details. And of course, everybody looks at this and they're like, resolution and frame rate are the most important things in the world. And, you know, Lloyd, what's your take on this answer?
My take is I'm snipping that, and that's going to be my new ringtone. First off, that's going to be great. But yeah, that totally makes sense. Like who cares really? Let's play the game. Let's see how good the game runs before we start talking about the specifics. I like the fact that they're aiming up to high settings because I know some people in watching some streams, they were complaining about the fact it's like, I just got a new video card. Why can't I put everything up to max? Like, what's happening here? So it looks like it's going to run pretty decently on Stadia, which I'm happy about. 60 frames per second would be nice, but this isn't an action game where frame rate really matters because everything is done through timers and percentages and fake dice rolls and things like that. So 30 frames per second would be fine. But I hope it is 60 because there's a lot of people that do prefer having 60 frames per second on the games they play.
And if you've played it on PS4 or Xbox One, then you've played at 30 frames per second. It's 30 frames per second on those platforms. I will say this, the PS4 version has HDR. And I wish that they had pushed to find out if the Stadia version will have HDR, because the Chromecast supports HDR. I believe Chrome currently does not support HDR, but Chromecast does. And I would love it if it supported HDR, because I played it on my PS4, and in HDR, the colors just are so vibrant and pop off the screen. I really hope that it looks like that. But on PC, the game does not support HDR on the PC version. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. The next question that they said is, you mentioned cross progression and cross entitlement being available for ESO on Stadia. Can you explain exactly what that is for somebody who already is playing on PC or Mac? So here's what they said. Somebody playing ESO on PC or Mac platform, whether through ZeniMax Online Studios or Steam, you're already in the game. You can jump on Stadia and just carry on exactly where you left off. If you're a Stadia Pro member, you're going to be able to get into the base game bundle that we have, and from there, previous purchases. Any of that progression, all of that stuff will be fully accessible within Stadia, which is just super neat. I want to take a minute here and complain that when I asked them, they wouldn't tell me this. And so I had bought Greymoor and I had subscribed to ESO Plus, and they would not tell me. Like, I just assumed that it would be, I would still have that in Stadia. And when there was information out there that made me think that maybe it wouldn't, I asked. They wouldn't answer the question, and so I returned them. I said, okay, well, I want a refund. Give me my money back. I'll just do it again when it comes out on Stadia. And had they just answered me, I wouldn't have done that. So I just wanted to complain about that. I love that it's cross progression and cross entitlement. So if you have this DLC on PC, you're just going to jump in. But then they drop the ball again. All right. Here they dropped the ball in this next highlight. They said, okay, so basically existing PC players will have to buy the game again for the first time, and then any following purchases made on the account will be shared. And they said that's correct. But they should have said, unless you are a Stadia Pro member, because you get the base game as part of your subscription. So now everybody is going to think, based on this interview, that you have to buy the game again. And they're not mentioning Stadia. Like, am I wrong to be irritated by this, or to say that they didn't do a good job communicating?
I guess so. To me, it's, if you're thinking of picking up Stadia Pro just to play ESO, you'd probably want to buy the game anyway, because you'd be spending way more than the cost of the game after a few months, and then you'd have to play your ESO Plus on top of it if that's what you want to do. So there's a lot of monthly fees. I just like the fact that ESO is structured in such a way where you can buy the base game or get the base game for free if you happen to be on like a free play weekend or whatever. And you could be playing with the buddy and they're like, oh, I want to go run this dungeon. And it's like, oh, I don't have access to that. And then you look in the store and it's like, oh, it's 600 crowns. Boom. You spend your 600 crowns and it's like, boom, I have access to that content now. Everything is so piecemeal. So you don't have to subscribe to the monthly fee to get access to all of it. You can just buy crown packs every once in a while and then just start adding content on top of it. Such a different way of doing an MMO compared to everything else on the market, where if you're jumping into World of Warcraft, well, you buy this and then you have to buy that, and you have to buy this, you have to buy that to get access to all the old content. And it's just like, it's so crazy and confusing. This is like, you either pay for a monthly fee and you get access to everything, or you pay for the base game and then you a la carte buy all the content that you want. Such a really cool way to do it. And it's awesome that all that stuff is going to be cross-platform with PC, because you might happen to find a sale on crowns on Steam. You buy those crowns on Steam, you buy it on your Steam client. Next thing you do, you log into your Stadia version and you have access to all that content as well. It's a pretty cool way of jumping into an MMO.
And the fact that we have this, what did they say, cross ownership? No, they said cross entitlement. That means that all of those players who are playing on PC, Stadia is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Appealing to them, because this means that they can now play the game that they've been playing for years on most screens that they have access to, which is very, very cool. Last thing that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned is the last question that they said, or the last question that I'm focusing on is, they said, good to know. I understand that ESO on Stadia will include the Morrowind chapter. And they said, yes, our base game is going to include the Morrowind chapter, which is really good for new players, just because it has a refined tutorial. So when you play the game, and I made a video about this. Right now it's exclusive to members. It will be out for everybody before Elder Scrolls Online comes out. When you play the game, and you start you're not playing the base game, you're playing the Morrowind game. And so when you start playing ESO, you are not starting at the beginning of the story that everybody else started with back when the game first came out. And I know that that's confusing, and there's more to it, and make sure that you check out that video when it comes out, because it will explain that. All right. Are you ready to get serious, Lloyd?
There was one other interesting thing about from this interview. The question was, do you think there may be some balancing issues with PC crossplay, given that PC players have access to add-ons and stuff like that? Or do you think that's not going to be an issue? And the answer was, I think it's something like that. We're always going to be paying attention to player feedback on things like that, but it's not been a major concern for us, though. What I hope that leads to is the ability to get add-ons running in your cloud version of ESO. So if you like a specific casting bar, having info on like healing or other things like that, I think that would be a fantastic add-on down the road, is the ability to have custom curated add-ons that you can then add to your game to change your user interface a little bit.
Yeah, when I talked to John Justice about it, he said we want to have add-ons in the games. We just have to figure out how that's going to work. So I think that there's definitely a chance that we will have access to add-ons at some point in the future. And the add-on that everybody always wants when they talk about Elder Scrolls Online is like the mapping add-ons that show you where all of the sky shards are, or all of the lore books are, so that you don't have to go open it up on another screen and like Google it. And okay, I got to go over here. Like there's just convenience things that make things so much easier to play. And yes, I will say this. I've played it with mods. I've played it on a console that doesn't have mods. There are things that are easier to do with the mods, but I also felt like the game is completely playable without any mods. And you like anybody who doesn't have access to mods is going to be just fine. I just think that that's something cool. All right, let's get serious and talk about Serious Sam 4. There's just a quote here that I wanted to mention, and then we'll get to the crowd play section because we have really been talking for a long time. And this is a quick quote from the developer of let's see, Chief Creative Officer Davor Hunsky, who is working at Crow Team on Serious Sam 4. This is what they had to say about cloud gaming. They said, "We have always been quick to adopt new technologies, especially when they excite us. There is no doubt that cloud gaming will be more and more prevalent as we move forward. We see it as the next big thing, and we want to be part of it. Google has been a great partner to us on this project, and the technology behind the platform is impressive for sure." I just think that it's awesome that they're saying this. This is what a lot of developers have been saying. I don't have much to say just because we're close to the end of the show. Lloyd, what are your thoughts?
It's just a very different take from, say, the 2K Games quote from last episode. It just shows how different people in the ecosystem of getting a game to market have different ideas. The engineers and programmers are super excited about new technology. The bean counters and leads and presidents of companies are like, show me the money. Where's the money? So it's just kind of interesting to see the different take on what new technology is bringing to the games market.
Right. And, you bring up the 2K Games thing. There is another Stadia creator, Clive Illenden, who kind of, he ended up watching the entire thing and kind of picked it all apart. And I don't have a link for it in the show notes, but go find him. And he watched the whole thing and talked about each part of everything that the 2K fella said. And the way that Clive looks at it is that it wasn't nearly as bad. I didn't actually watch the whole thing. I saw a story on, I think it was broadbandbullies.com or something like that, where they were talking about what Clive had found, which, right. A lot of people were, this happens all the time. Headlines are not the article. All right. So just keep that in mind, everybody. All right. Let's move on to crowd play. And we had some stuff in crowd play in the show notes, but I don't think that we're going to have time to get to all that because we had a bunch of things come in on Super Chats. This is going to be a longer episode than normal. And for that, I apologize. So first off, I'm going to go through and thank all of the members that have become members today. Michael Bergman, Peter Blake, let's see, and Patrice Derry all became members today. And Anthony Bourne all became members today. So thank you very much for that. Now let's get to the super chats. Anthony Talca sent in a $5 super chat. They said, in just a little over a week, not only will I be able to play ESO on my Chromecast, I'll also be able to play it elsewhere. And he spelled it elsewhere like you do in ESO. And I don't have anything to say about that, but I love the wordplay, Anthony.
Clever.
Ray Sherrod sent in a super chat. They said, I liked Trolls on Elder Scrolls Online. I killed Trolls on Elder Scrolls Online, and I like it. Dwemer sent in a super chat. They said 10 timed exclusives for Stadia were planned for the first half of 2020. Spitlings, Stacks, Lost Worlds, and Get Packed so far. More coming soon? Well, I mean, since we have 4 and they said 10, I think yes, more coming soon. I don't know what those exclusives will be, but there's 6 more coming, and the first half of the year is over in, we'll say, 23 days. Do you think that they're going to hit their goal of 10 before the first half of the year, Lloyd?
I hope so. I really do. Of course, they can always do we meant the first half of our fiscal year, and our fiscal year doesn't start till March. So we have till September to do this, or some crazy calendar play. They can do that. I really hope they do hit it though.
I did not think about fiscal year. That is, oh, come on, Google. I hope they're not playing that game. Let's see. Patrice Derry sent in a super chat. They said, when do you expect to see the Stadia V2 servers roll out? Also, do you think that the next gen console's price tag may drive new users to Stadia? So that's two questions. We'll start with the first one. I have no idea when version 2 stuff would roll out. I'm going to assume that if Google does what I say that they should do, and I guess I'm not making an assumption, I'm giving advice. I don't think they should even mention V2 servers. They should just say, hey, look, here's a cool game. Look how awesome it looks on Stadia. And just leave it at that. Don't even mention the idea that this is running on Gen 2 hardware versus Gen 1 hardware, because then what will happen is a game developer will announce a game on Google Stadia and everybody will ask, is this running on Gen 2 or Gen 1? And that's a question that doesn't need to be answered. Just stop focusing on numbers and just focus on, is the game good? Is the game fun? Because that's really all that matters. Any thoughts to the first question there, Lloyd?
No, I think that when a big game that requires it needs it, they'll roll out Gen 2 blades. I thought that was going to be Cyberpunk. Maybe not, or maybe it will. Maybe that's also why there's some delay or a potential delay or not a delay, depending on how you look at past releases. Maybe that will be the first game that supports it, but we won't know until later this year if any games are using any Gen 2 features.
And the thing that you have to remember about Gen 1, Gen 2 is we don't have to pay for it, so it doesn't 100%. Matter. That's the thing that everybody seems to forget is, hey, the new Xbox comes out, and this kind of hits on the second question. The new Xbox comes out, the new PlayStation comes out. You have to fork over a fistful of cash in order to play the new games on that system. When Gen 2 blades come out, and I hope that we never know, we don't have to pay any extra money to play that. And, people in chat are saying they should call them Stadia Enhanced. And no, they shouldn't, because then if a game doesn't need Gen 2 blades and it's running on Gen 1 blades, then people are going to go, well, how come this isn't Stadia Enhanced? It's just going to cause confusion. They should just never, ever mention it, in my opinion. All right, the second question she asks, do you think that the next gen console's price tag may drive users to Stadia? What do you think, Lloyd?
I know personally people that are not buying new next gen stuff. They're just switching over to Stadia, provided all of the cross-platform games that they want are coming to Stadia in the future. We'll see if that holds up past, hey, yeah, I'm a fully 100% Stadia player now. I don't want to buy another $500 console. I'm sure you'll get some people that are playing their Xbox One or their PS4 right now, and then the next big game comes out and it looks better on Stadia, and it's like, well, I'm spending $60 for the game. I could spend $60 here, or I could spend $60 on Stadia and not have to buy the new console to make it look fantastic. So I think there's going to be some people move over. I don't think it's going to be a large percentage of people. If anything, Stadia will be an additional console for a lot of people, where they'll have whatever Xbox console or PlayStation console under their TV, and next gen stuff. And then if a game comes out that they can't run but is on Stadia, they might pick up the Stadia version and play it that way. Kind of like how people are doing that with Switch right now, where they buy Nintendo Switch and an Xbox, or Nintendo Switch and a PlayStation, so they can play a couple different platforms worth of exclusives. Right,
but if you fast forward a few years, I think that will change. Over time, that's going to change. Especially if we fast forward like 5 years, maybe when the next gen is getting long in the tooth. Right. I think that as Stadia has been around for a while, it's going to be much more widely used, especially because there's no buy-in. Thank you very much for the question. And Jay Chussell sent in a super chat with no comment, but thank you very much. I think there was a thumbs up or something. I couldn't see it because it was scrolling by too fast. All right. We had a bunch of other crowd play stuff that I was going to talk about in the show notes, but we talked a really long time, so we're going to have to push that off to discuss some other time. If you want to get your thoughts on the show, use the hashtag Stadiacast on Twitter, and we will try and get that stuff on the show. There's probably people who are listening to this right now, and they're like, you didn't talk about the big news, the Cyberpunk delay. And that's because Lloyd and I talked about it yesterday and made a YouTube video about it. And I didn't feel like we had anything extra to say about it. Is there anything, Lloyd, that you think that we need to, you want to hit the highlights of it real quick?
Sure. The game is coming out on all platforms except Stadia on release day, and Stadia is coming before the end of the year. People are saying it's a delay. We didn't really have a release date for the Stadia version before, so technically it isn't a delay, but then it is because we've seen other press releases. There's a lot of confusion out there. And just like everything else, if there was better communication from the start, we wouldn't be having these conversations. For me personally, I was always like banging my head against the table, wondering if I was going to get the PlayStation 4 version or the Stadia version, because I have a half price pre-order on the PlayStation 4, so it's $40 Canadian, and I was like, but I kind of want to play it on Stadia, which is going to be probably $80 Canadian, which is the new release price for a game up here. Now I don't have to make that decision. I'll play it on PlayStation 4 and then get it on Stadia down the road. I'm hopeful that it comes closer to the release date that the other platforms have, but if what some of the people are hazarding guesses at why it was delayed because it's next gen hardware, or they want the better version that is going to be on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One X or Series X, maybe that is what we're getting on Stadia. That will encourage my purchase maybe even sooner than it would have normally been, because I'm going to want to see what it looks like on next gen hardware.
Yeah. And that's it for us today. If you follow the show on Twitter at Stadiacast, you can follow me on Twitter at RunJumpStomp. You can follow Lloyd on Twitter at DASME. That's Dasme, as in Dasme. Be sure to use the hashtag Stadiacast so we can find your tweets as I build the show notes. Join our Stadiacast Discord over at runjumpstomp.com/Discord, and you can also join Lloyd's Discord. It's easy. They can have folders on Discord now, so you can join a bunch of different Discords. Join Lloyd's as well over at rezd.tv/Discord. That's rezd.tv/Discord. The music that you are about to hear is Subterranean Kamikaze by Zircon. Check out their stuff at zirconstudios.bandcamp.com. We'll see you around, everybody. See you later, Lloyd.
See ya.
All right.
Just Sarah, saying it's malicious is maybe a little strong. Stuff happens in development where things get delayed, and Stadia has thousands of users. Other platforms have millions of users. We don't know if Stadia even has a million people that are buying games. It makes financial sense to put all of your work in getting the other versions that are going to sell huge numbers out and looking the best, and then dealing with the newer console platform that doesn't have that same user base that would spend money. I understand from a business standpoint why that was done. I wouldn't call it malicious. It is disappointing, if anything. We didn't have an official person coming out and saying it's coming out on release day on all platforms, including Google Stadia. We just had their logo on their website, and we kind of guessed because we had no other information. So it sucks, but I'm not super disappointed. I'll eventually pick it up when it does come to Stadia.
Yeah, and then Sarah says they did it to disappoint avid fans. No company plans on, like, they don't say, twirl the mustache. We'll get them this time. They're not doing it on purpose to disappoint people. They want the game to come out. I'm sure that they would prefer if the game came out the same exact day as other platforms. I guarantee that they would prefer that be the case. But if they're delaying it, it's because they feel that they need to in order to make the game what they want it to. And, there's also there's a lot of people who are angry at Google over this. And I don't understand. Like, this has nothing to do with Stadia. This is about CD Projekt Red having ambiguous stuff on their website. And if you remember the first time that they, when they first delayed it to September, like, I remember talking to Lloyd about this and saying, do you think that means that we will get it day and date? And we didn't know if we would get it day and date. People just assumed that we would. Now, of course, you go to CD Projekt Red's website and it says September 17th and then lists the platforms underneath. That is a huge problem that they should not have done. But I just...
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're not going to delay a game to get at Google. They would just not bring the game to the platform if they wanted to get at Google. If they were pissed off at Google for some reason, they wouldn't say, well, I'm giving it to you, but 2 months later, because that'll show you. They just wouldn't bring the game to the platform if they didn't believe in the platform. My personal explanation, this is probably not true, but it's what I'm thinking is probably the most likely, is that they delayed it once. They hit development roadblocks due to COVID or something else, and they needed more engineers working on all of the platforms that are going to sell millions of copies on day one. So they said, okay, all you Stadia people, you're now working on the PlayStation and the Xbox versions, and we're going to make this work. And then once that's done, everybody is going to move over to Stadia and get the Stadia version running as best as possible. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say that's what happened, but we'll never find out. That's probably not something they're ever going to admit to or talk about, because we don't really get to peek under the curtain very often for game companies like this.
Right. I don't blame them for having to delay a game. I would prefer that they delay a game so that we get a better game when it does come to Stadia. The amount of vitriol that was out there for them delaying this game, I think, was just kind of over the top. I still feel like they made a mistake, though, by having that listed on the website. And I've said this a billion times about every every publisher and developer out there. Stop telling us release dates when you don't know. Like, and maybe you think you know. Guess what? Unless it's next month, you don't know. So just don't say anything. Keep telling us about the game. That's fine. Hey, look at this. We're working on it. Don't tell us a damn release date until you are 1,000% sure that you're going to hit that mark. And that's how we keep hearing these delays. Well, guess what? I'm going to give you an example. Nintendo this year didn't tell us when anything's coming out, right? Lloyd and I both do Nintendo shows. I do Nintendo Switchcraft. Lloyd does Nintendo Pulse. Make sure that you subscribe to both of them in your podcast catcher of choice. But Nintendo didn't tell us anything, right? So that means they didn't have to delay anything. Sure. Did they delay stuff? Absolutely. The COVID-19 stuff forced all developers to push things out, right? But Nintendo never told us when games were coming, so that means they didn't have to also do a mea culpa and say, hey, well, sorry, everybody, due to COVID, we had to push, in these trying times, we had to push the release of Game X out further. Because they never 100%. Told us.
It's one of those things where they had a roadmap. They pushed last year, they pushed it out a little bit further, saying we need a little bit more time. And then COVID hit, and they're like, "Oh crap! Okay, well we already pushed it once. We've already sent it out for manufacturing. We're working on the day one patches for these consoles. We can't push it out any further. We're gonna lose our shirts if we do. So we gotta get everybody working on these other versions." And I'm assuming that is exactly what happened. Of course, we don't know, and we'll probably never know. But it's not an attack on Stadia. It definitely isn't. Just like when a game comes later on Nintendo, it's not an attack on Nintendo. It's just these are how the companies work. You have an internal development team that works on the PlayStation and the Xbox version, and then they send out the Switch one to a porting team, because the engineers that are working for the company don't want to learn a whole new set of how do we get the most bang for our buck out of the Switch hardware. So they send it to a porting company, and that takes a little bit longer. Stadia is a new platform. CD Projekt Red has probably had access to it for about a year. That's not a lot of time to know the ins and outs of all the hardware. So it is going to take longer to get the same game running on Stadia than it would on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which have been in the market for 6 years. They've been working on that hardware on dev kits for probably 7 or 8 years. So Stadia is new to them. So there's so many moving pieces to this puzzle as to why it was delayed, but none of those are we're going to make Stadia pay, or we don't like Stadia gamers, or this will show them. It's none of that. That doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint, and they just wouldn't make the game for the platform if they didn't like Google or they had some bone to pick with Google. It doesn't make sense.
Right. And Jack is saying, what about Codemasters? Dirt is also coming later on Stadia. The thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is that Stadia is like 2 hours. Like if you look at how long it takes to make a game, Stadia has barely even taken its first breath. Yep. And so it takes an insane amount of time to make a game, which means that all of the games that we've gotten so far since Stadia came out, even games like Guilt, which is a Stadia exclusive, I don't care what they say, that game is a port. It's a port of something that they were working on some other platform, and they decided to release it on Stadia instead, probably because Google walked up and said, here's some money.
Exactly.
Which is, but it's all ports. None of the games that we've played so far have been games that have been worked on from the ground up with Stadia in mind. None of them. Yeah. And that's when you're going to start seeing these day and date things come out. That's when you're going to start seeing these Stadia exclusive features or enhanced features or whatever it is that the creative team, that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of that stuff get taken advantage of, is when we are playing the games that were made with Stadia in mind. Does that mean that those games have to be exclusive to Stadia? No. But it means that they're not taking stuff that they've already worked on and adapting it for Stadia. They're working on it in conjunction with Stadia and Xbox and PlayStation and PC and Nintendo Switch and iOS and Android. And that's the thing that I feel like so many people don't understand.
There's a lot of unknowns in development on Stadia. If you've been dealing with other platforms, you might have been using DirectX if you're making Xbox games. Now you have to switch to get your engine running properly on Vulkan. So there's a lot of work there. But also the Stadia OS is Linux. So you had people that have been making games on Linux for years saying there's some timer issues that we've never run into on any other platform. So there's inherent issues with a new platform that takes time for developers to get their heads on. The low level engineers need to look at the hardware. They need to look at timing. They need to look at how long it takes stuff to transfer from memory to the CPU, how quick things travel on the bus. Like there's so much stuff that goes into development that once that is figured out, then you have the actual like I guess higher level developers, the people that aren't dealing with the low level hardware, that are making sure that the engine looks and draw calls and their textures are loading properly from memory. So there's so many layers to getting something running on a new platform. Even though it may be familiar, it may be Linux and you've worked on Linux before, there's timing issues. And it's you may have worked on Vulkan before, but this may be a different iteration of Vulkan. Maybe your engine needs some updates to run on this. There's so much stuff, and it just takes time. And unfortunately, that's what we ran into. Next year, we probably won't have this issue because developers will have over a year of getting stuff working on the Stadia dev kits, getting all that stuff working. So hopefully by the time that next fall rolls around, after E3 of next year, if there even is an E3, and we get all these new game announcements, hopefully we will start getting day and date next gen stuff on Stadia, as well as PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. But time will tell. We'll have to see.
I think that there's a possibility of that happening, but I think in 2 years is more realistic. At least that's how I look at it. Just because, again, you know, you look at something like CD Projekt Red that's been in development for 5 years. Stadia has been around for 6 months. You know, Bungie did the Destiny 2 port in 6 months. And that game, people are upset. Oh, you know, it's like on PC medium settings. They did that port in 6 months. That's really impressive. So I think that people just need to understand that development takes time. And if you're so, if something about this is so angering to you that you just, you'd have to scream at the world, then I think, I don't know, maybe your priorities are misplaced, because, you know, I think Stadia is awesome and I'm excited for it. But when a game doesn't come to my platform of choice, I just say, oh, well, I have a billion other games to play. What do I care? And sure, I might miss out on a game, but it's not like it was when I was a kid where, you know, you had like 2 games to play a year. Now we have so many games to play, we can't possibly play them all. Like we got 6 games as part of Stadia Pro this month.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I've seen some people say, well, there's no problems bringing games to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Why are they able to get it working on new hardware like that? And it's like, well, because it's the 5th iteration of PlayStation hardware. PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3 was a complete, like, 100% learning of how to make games run on PlayStation 3, because it was so different from PlayStation 2. They fixed that with PlayStation 4. They made it closer to working on, say, like PC hardware. PlayStation 5 is just an extension of that. It's even more an extension on Xbox. So Xbox One, essentially the same code will run on Xbox Series X with very little changes, because it's just upgraded hardware. Essentially, there's some other features like your SSD and other stuff. Getting stuff to and from memory is a lot quicker, but it's essentially the same hardware and the same dev kit to make things run on Series X. So getting a game running on if you have a game running on Xbox One, recompiling it to run on Series X with all the new bells and features is a very quick process. It's not like bringing it to a new platform like Stadia, which is completely new, 100% new, unlike anything else that has ever existed in the market. So that's going to take time, and hopefully that will be a fast thing, not years and years and years. Hopefully within a year we'll start getting day and date stuff for all the big releases, but only time will tell. We can't as much as we'd like to, we can't predict the future.
Right. And Sarah says, I would play 1080 30 all days happily. I couldn't care less. I just want good news, and some people seem to find nothing but bad news. It's stressful. If it's stressing you out, then I would get off of social media and I would not look at this stuff because it's stressing you out. But what I would say is the bad news is found because the bad news gets clicks. There's a reason why Lloyd and I don't have 1 million viewers on YouTube. It's because we don't go out and say, let me find some nasty stuff to talk about, and so we can rant and rave about it over and over, because that gets clicks. And if you only look at the people who are angry all the time, then you're always going to find this bad stuff. And that's why Stadia got such a bad rap to begin with, is because it's profitable to complain about them. It's profitable to look at the new thing and say how terrible it is. Why is it profitable? Because people like to click on angry stuff. Look at Jimquisition. Like he rightly points out some bad things about the gaming industry. I don't have a problem with him. But he doesn't do any positive stuff. It's always negative. Why? Because he gets a lot of clicks. I don't really blame him. You know? Same thing with other YouTubers. You know who my favorite YouTuber is Happy Console Gamer, because he's always positive. He's always in a good mood. Even last year when he was sick in pneumonia for 2 months, right? He was still always in a good mood. So, just don't put any stock into these people who are always angry, and you'll be a happier person.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I stopped. I tried creating kind of like the complainy content early on. I was like, I'm going to make YouTube videos and do complainy stuff. It's just tiring. I'm a very happy guy, and I try to be thinking positive all the time and looking on the brighter side, because that is much more healthier to me and my mental state. So yeah, I couldn't even do it. It was just exhausting. I don't know how these people make a living just bitching and moaning and complaining all the time. Like just the mental tax would just be so much for me. I don't know how they do it. So, but I guess it makes money because there's so many people. It's even down to streamers. You have people that are streaming Fortnite or Call of Duty. You have Dr. Disrespect that is playing a character that is angry all the time and calling stuff out and making a big deal about losing. And then you have the super happy streamers. Dr. Disrespect has the 1 million people watching, and the happy streamer has like 5,000 people watching because people want to see that drama and that anger, and they find it funny. And that's just the way the internet is. Sadly, we're never going to have those numbers because both Bill and I are not not that person. We like to see the bright side of things, not the dark, complainy side of things.
That's right. All right, moving on. that was a lot of negativity. I need something positive right now.
Darren Pogue, you need thumbnails with dumb facial expressions and hands in the air, and that's a joke that Bill and I do. Like, we do video chats when we're planning stuff and stuff, and it's like, all we need is a good thumbnail like this, and that would be money. That would be money. We don't need anything else. And that would be 1 million clicks.
It would.
And that is exactly the way that it works on YouTube.
And oh my God, those ones where they make the person's eyes really big.
Yeah.
Every time I see one of those, I say, never recommend this channel to me again. I don't even watch to see if it's good content, because it might be good content. But when they have the giant eyeballs, it creeps me the hell out. I can't stand it.
Yeah, exactly. So, anything else to talk about, Bill? I think we covered everything.
I think so. Lloyd, you have an awesome day, sir. I have to go get gas and mow the lawn and maybe put something on the barbecue for lunch.
I have to go start the motor, and that motor is my cat's purring motor because she loves to purr, and I'm going to go play with her for the next hour or so because she is fantastic.
Are you going to tweet out a picture of Juno? Tweet out a picture of Juno right now.
Okay, as soon as I get upstairs, I'll take a picture of her and I'll tweet it out, and I'll say this is for all the awesome Stadiacast listeners that were watching us on YouTube.
There you go. Follow him on Twitter. It's at Dasme, DASME. Later, Lloyd.
Yeah, later. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, chat.
Thank you.